One more week for NFL Survivor pools. I've got you covered here with all the analysis, the best in the business. It's Scratching and Surviving next. All right, guys, we are scratching and surviving all the way to the finish line. If you are watching now, you've been with me for quite some time, and you've been winning each and every week. We haven't had all that many upsets in the last few weeks until last weekend with Indianapolis going down to the Giants. So we're going to lose a few of you here, no doubt about that. But I know a lot of you have been messaging me on YouTube looking for this week's video. Sorry about that. Travel week, so we're getting it in a little bit late. But I wanted to wait a little bit later in the week this week as well, because we got a lot of teams here that some may be playing starters, some may not. So we're getting a clearer picture of what's going on right now in the league for Week 18 as I record this on Friday. So again, guys, I am Statsational. For those who don't know, I was a former professional trader, currency trader. I've played DFS professionally, and I am a professional sports bettor and one of the co-founders of the Sharp app. So I always appreciate you guys giving the Sharp app a look. Head over to sharp.app. Use code SURVIVE35. It's going to get you 35% off the pro version. All right, let's get right into it now. Not a whole lot of analysis that we could do when we're in Week 18. There's no more looking forward. We can bring Survivor Grid up. It's just going to show us all the games here for this week. There's no more looking forward. That's it. You're not saving anybody. If you happen to have Baltimore, who's like a 20-point favorite this week, I don't know what you'd be waiting on them to take. So not many of you are going to have Baltimore left. If you obviously have Baltimore left, they are going to be your pick. Tampa is a 2-touchdown favorite, 87% chance to win over New Orleans. I mean, basically, guys, you're going down the list and you're going to take the best teams available. As a matter of fact, let's forget Survivor Grid. Let's jump into my spreadsheet. And you see the future value column. That is totally wiped out. There is no more future value. And I've kind of hidden all the other columns because they don't really matter much. We're just going to look at the threshold column. That's the only column here that potentially may sway you one way or the other. What is the threshold column? The threshold column says, based on this pick percentage and based on the probability of this team winning, according to the betting markets, that's the threshold at which you can fade. You need, for this, let's say, if you had 9% of your pool on Baltimore, and you knew that for a fact, you would need to find a team that can win at 94% or better. That's not going to happen. There are no teams other than Baltimore with a 94% chance. So if you were in a pool and there were, let's say there were 10 people left in your pool and only one of them were taking Baltimore, of course, you would want to be on Baltimore as well. You would be risking the fact that you cannot scoop the pool and win it all by yourself. But the fact that Baltimore is such a high favorite, it is worth that play. Tampa, the threshold number here is going to be 87.6 because, again, only 11.2% or 11.7% of people are on Tampa. Not many can take Tampa, right? Denver here, 9.2%. A lot of people have taken Denver. This is not a game that necessarily you were looking ahead at and saying, oh, I'm going to want Denver against Kansas City in Week 18. But we've talked about this for weeks on end. You can't project for Week 18. You just don't know what teams are going to be starting players, what teams are not. Teams that you may have saved, and I'll give you an instance here. Who's a team that we would have saved? Buffalo. Potentially, a lot of people wanted to maybe wait till Week 18 to play Buffalo. Well, you look at Buffalo, now they're only a 60% chance to win that game as they're going to be resting starters in that one against New England. So you would have kind of wasted them if they don't win. Certainly, it's a big waste. And you were forced to take them, or you're just going to pass on taking Buffalo and you're going to have to take another team, and you could have used Buffalo somewhere along the line earlier. So we always want to be careful here looking too far ahead into Week 18, but we're in Week 18 now, so it is what it is. So take a look at the threshold column. Usually we're going to be looking to fade maybe, whoever's going to be the most popular team. Right now it looks like Atlanta, home for Carolina. They're getting 24% of the picks. They have a 73.3% threshold. They're going to win this game, according to the markets, around 78% of the time. So you're going to only fade this team with borderline Seattle, borderline Washington, and any of the teams above. But quite frankly, if you have any team with a higher win percentage than Atlanta, you're going to be on them automatically. So you're really only looking here at Seattle or Washington. You probably don't even have either one of those teams available to you. So there's not a ton of analysis we could do here in the final weeks. Your pool obviously is going to vary, and we could get into that down in the comments. Now, the other big factor that we love to talk about is hedging. And now you've eliminated just about every other variable, right? We've gotten rid of future. We don't have to worry about our hedge bet accumulating the hedges at a rate where we can't they're not sustainable, right? So if you start hedging in week 7 and here we are in week 18 and you've lost every single hedge bet to that point, you may wind up losing money. You may not even have enough money to wager just to get your money back on hedges. So we always want to be careful with the more time that we have available to us, as opposed to when we get to the very end like it is now. We're going to have a real clear idea of where we stand. Now, actually, there are 4 o'clock games, and I didn't look if any of these really the games that are potential picks are at 4 o'clock. So, I mean, potentially, if you have Seattle available to you, that is a 4:25 game. If you're taking the Chargers, that's at 4:25. The Jet game, unlikely that you're going to be touching that. Arizona's a 4.5-point favorite. If you have Arizona available to you, that's at 4 o'clock. And then that Denver game, which is they're a double-digit favorite, 10.5-point favorites, is a late game as well. Unlikely that you're going to be looking to take the Minnesota-Detroit game. So if you're kind of up in the air about 2 teams and one is playing that later game, one's playing earlier, you're going to want to defer to that late game because you're going to have the information. You're going to have all those 1 o'clock games are going to finish, and that's going to potentially knock some people out of your pool before you have the opportunity to hedge, which is an advantage to you because you have more information now than you did prior. At 1 o'clock, and we've got 2 games for tomorrow, so you're going to have a couple of games tomorrow that are big games. I think the Baltimore game is, I say tomorrow as I'm recording this on Friday, but the Baltimore-Cleveland game, which obviously if Baltimore were to happen to lose that game and someone in your pool had it, I mean, that would be a miracle. But if that were to happen, you get some more information. Unlikely anyone's taking that Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game in your pool, but if they are, you're going to get some information there. But more than likely, there's going to be a lot of 1 o'clock games on Sunday being taken. So if you could wait for a 4 o'clock game, that would be advantageous. But don't go too crazy just waiting for the hedge. We want to try and win the pool. We want to try to at least split the pot, get as much of it as we can. And to do that, you're really at this point this is the ultimate zero future weight, even though my spreadsheet has it at 100% future weight, but this is the ultimate zero future value weighted week. It's week 18. There is no future value. We are strictly playing this one as the best teams or the best team available to us, unless we know for sure. If we were in a situation where we had 4 people left in our pool and we knew that 3 of them were taking Atlanta, that's when we could start to get off. So let's just look at what the spreadsheet looks like. If you knew there were going to be 3 Atlantas, right? So that would change our pick probability to 75%, or pick percentage of 75%. Now at this point, you are justified in taking any other team. All right, so keep that in mind. Now we're looking at this. This is Survivor Grid's allocations, and they may differ from yours. And you're going to be able to maybe make a projection. Look, it's part art and it's part science. A lot of science, but it's a lot of art to this as well. And we're going to have to look at what your opponents have left and try to predict what they're going to do. Understand, most of them are not going to be thinking the way you're thinking as you watch this, right? Most people are not thinking about this on a deeper level. We just want to be careful that we don't overthink and we don't outthink ourselves we think ourselves out of maybe potentially winning the pool. But we'll go over it in the comments. I'll go over each scenario with you guys down below where I think you should be. More often than not, though, I'm going to err on the side of safety as we are in week 18. But if you want to take that risk and you think maybe, and Atlanta's going to be the one most likely that we're going to be able to do this with, if you think everyone in your pool is going to Atlanta, that's your shot, right? That's your shot. You can wind up taking anybody. You wind up hedging it, maybe take a 4 o'clock game, hedge there, because now if Atlanta loses at 1 o'clock, you are sitting all by yourself at 4 o'clock with a hedge opportunity for the entirety of your pool. So this is going to be a brief video, one of the briefest ones, because we just don't have a lot more to talk about. Guys, if you haven't watched the Better Thinking podcast, though, I do urge you. And matter of fact, the guest that I just interviewed, that podcast is going to be coming out. We talk about hedging quite a bit. He wrote a book. His name's Dan Abrams, wrote a book called But How Much Did You Lose? And it's all about hedging. If you're interested in that sort of a topic, I just released one yesterday, the podcast with Dr. Dan Ariely, and I think you're going to enjoy that one as well. He's not a sports bettor. We just talk about a lot of psychology of risk taking and things of that sort. So that's kind of what we get into on the Better Thinking podcast, and I think it's going to be enjoyable for not just sports bettors, but for a lot of people who are into business and risk and things like that. So I hope you guys will give that, check that out and give us a like and maybe comment on there. Certainly, if you like the Scratch and Survivor videos, that'll help promote the podcast. And if you feel inclined to share it on your social media, I'd be forever grateful. So, again, guys, it's been a great year. I'm pulling for all of you. You know that. And I want to hear down below. I want to hear who we're taking this week, and I certainly want to hear all of the success stories after we cash all that money here on Scratch and Surviving. I want all those comments down below. Let me know exactly what you guys did. As always, pulling for you. All right, until next year for Scratch and Surviving, but you'll see me on this channel on Better Thinking and some other stuff. So, but until next year for this particular show, I am Statsational. Good luck, and let's take home the big one.